Thank you very much, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends. I am very honored to share the virtual stage with the distinguished panelists of this conference. I have come to appreciate very much the value of open, informed, comprehensive, 360 degrees discussions in a field often influenced by conspiracy theories and doomsday sentiment. At the outset, it is worth remembering how profoundly the internet has changed the world. It has generated innovative new services, capabilities, and unprecedented forms of sharing and cooperation. It has the power to make societies more open and free, connecting people across cultural and political boundaries. I think we all understand that digitization has delivered great benefit to the world and can keep doing so. But this is only one side of the coin. As Germany's cyber ambassador, I spent most of my time dealing with the, let's say, risky side of digitization. Every time a new device comes online or connects with a new server, the so-called attack surface expands. The exponential growth of the Internet of Things, clouds, use of big data, digitization of industry, media, and communication in general, also exposes vulnerabilities, enabling malicious actors to target ever more victims. The variety of attacks and their growing sophistication make it generally difficult to keep pace. This, though, is clear. Cybersecurity has become a Tier 1 global challenge, and cyber attacks are now a prime security threat for most nation-states. The initial idea of the Internet is constantly contested. We observe with increasing concern that cyber threats are ever more complex, destructive, coercive, and also more frequent. Take, for example, the recent cyber attacks on Ukraine, coming amid highly charged geopolitical tensions. Tensions that have the potential to negatively affect not only our friends in Ukraine, but us all, as neighbors in the real world and in cyberspace. We will certainly discuss this today in more detail. Further, we observe ongoing internet shutdowns or network disruptions across the world implemented by governments for domestic policy objectives. Most recently in Kazakhstan. These draconian shutdowns affect all people, especially marginalized groups, restrict free expression, and limit the dissemination and free flow of information, contributing to social and political disorder and negatively affecting public safety. The ghostwriter campaign, which has been associated with the Russian state, targeted numerous members of parliaments, governments, officials, politicians, and members of the press and civil society in the EU. This demonstrates how malicious cyber activities not only compromise integrity and security of data, but also pose a concrete threat to democratic values and principles and attempt to undermine our democratic institutions and processes. I could spend the entire morning citing more examples. Obviously, there is a lot at stake, not least fundamental human rights. Achieving a human-centered, trustworthy, and value-based digital world and cyberspace must be our common goal. Together with our democratic partners, Germany is firmly determined to ensure such a digital world and to protect the vision of an internet that is global, open, interoperable, reliable, and secure. It is reassuring that our pursuit of this goal enjoys broad European consensus, even if some policy areas still inspire vigorous debate. To bring cybersecurity to an acceptable level, we certainly need a holistic approach covering all intricacies globalization entails. Certainly, these huge global challenges require global action. It may seem that multilateralism has gone out of fashion, but our field of work shows that there is really no alternative to joint action. Without transparent and close cooperation with partners all across the world, we will not succeed. We are deeply committed to this principle. Let me be clear. To us, partners in this sense comprise all organizations from civil society, academia, and private sector that work vigorously to achieve our common goal. A broad multi-stakeholder approach has always been and will be key. The new German federal government's coalition agreement demonstrates our seriousness in this regard. The new government explicitly has committed itself to continuing to pursue a broad multi-stakeholder approach in this field. For instance, Germany is redoubling its efforts to protect a global, free, open, peaceful, and stable internet. Defending and strengthening human rights and fundamental freedoms in cyberspace is a cornerstone of German cyber diplomacy. The Freedom Online Coalition is our platform of choice of multi-stakeholders to take this important agenda forward. This coalition brings together the knowledge and expertise of governments, civil society, academia, and industry. I commend the current chair, Canada, for the 2022 program of action, which is just in final consultations. It builds on the Helsinki Declaration and calls to action, especially with regard to digital inclusion. Last year, together with Ghana, Germany co-chaired the Task Force on Digital Equality, and this year we are taking responsibility for the Task Force on Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights. Speaking of which, it is well known that artificial intelligence has the potential to show the two faces of new technologies. It already affects us all. On the one hand, it can further advance human progress, but it also creates immense for our values and democratic societies. So we need to set standards for human-centered AI. With the European Convention on Human Rights and other legal instruments, we have a strong legal framework in place. We actively support the valuable work of the Council of Europe as a vital standard setter and the continuing negotiations in Brussels regarding the envisaged EU AI Act in order to implement these ideas. But such national and European regulation is simply not enough. The internet is global, and so are the crimes and offenses committed within it. This is why we are strongly committed to upholding the rules-based international order, an order based on cooperation, the respect for international law and human rights. We are actively engaged in the United Nations processes currently underway. In particular, the negotiations in the new open-ended working group, or OEWG, I love the tongue twisters and acronyms, and the negotiations on our new cybercrime convention are high on our agenda. I am convinced that the new negotiation round should build upon consensus framework for responsible state behavior in cyberspace as established in the last round in the reports of last year. It was difficult and painful enough to protect the acquis and advance some baby steps into additional layers. Let's not reopen questions for which we have already found an answer, but add substance to our understanding of the norms. It is important to strengthen mutual understanding of how international law applies to cyberspace and to advance the implementation of the agreed norms that respect fundamental rights. While there is a broad international consensus that international law applies in its entirety to cyberspace, that cyberspace is no unregulated Wild West, it has yet to be defined what this means and what behavior of states we can expect in cyberspace. Germany therefore published a paper on the application of international law in cyberspace that clearly defines how those rules apply online. Here too, the German government's new coalition agreement provides us a clear roadmap, as it states that we ought to pursue the idea of a völkerrecht des Netzes, as we say in German, which would translate as an international law of the Internet. This also displays how we will continue to advocate for comprehensive protection of fundamental rights within the digital space and how to create a value-based digital world. Admittedly, shaping norms and rules is rarely sufficient. Effective enforcement of these rules is always key in order to succeed. Therefore, we support credible deterrence measures against malicious cyber activities. There must be consequences for intolerable behavior in cyberspace. This starts with responsible attribution. In 2021, the federal government established a procedure for attributing significant cyber attacks to a state or foreign actor. Attributions can be made non-publicly through confidential diplomatic channels or publicly communicated alone or jointly with our partners, and if appropriate, linked to additional measures. Attribution in this sense contributes to the awareness of threats in cyberspace and reaffirms that norms for responsible state behavior in cyberspace and international law. It builds on a technical analysis and all other available sources of information. On this basis, the German Federal Foreign Office develops a proposal for attribution, the manner of communication, and any further supplementary or accompanying measures. A final decision is then made on the political level. Germany uses the instrument of attribution in a responsible manner, in particular taking into account the obligations under international law and foreign and security policy interests. We work together with our international partners to hold irresponsible states accountable when they act contrary to the existing framework of legitimate behavior in cyberspace. This can also include taking concrete retaliatory measures, like those included in the adopted European Union cyber sanctions regime, which we support. This regime, a part of the cyber diplomacy toolbox, will allow the EU to credibly and coherently react to malicious behavior by third parties in cyberspace. Let me briefly say something about the OSCE, where Poland currently holds the chairmanship. This organization is an essential part of the European security architecture. It has also found its role in cyber diplomacy. The toolbox of confidence-building measures is unique in the world and can be a model for confidence-building measures at the global level as well. We know that cybersecurity issues are not limited to our European Union and European space. The UN cyber norms call for the development of such global confidence-building measures, and it is high time that we start doing so. As mentioned, we find the United Nations plays a critical role. We therefore welcome recent initiatives in order to address emerging risks for human rights stemming from digitization, including within the digital roadmap of the United Nations, which is a valid compass for ensuring that the digital space is safe and digital technologies contribute to overcoming the digital divide. We also look forward to working toward a truly human rights-centered global digital compact. Let me wrap up with a clarion call. It is up to us all to come together and to better steer cyberspace and new digital technologies to fully harness their benefits, decrease the digital divide, and mitigate the risks. We cannot stand on the sidelines and leave this economic and political treasure chest called the Internet unprotected. I know I can count on all of you to always keep this aim in mind while we all take the discussion forward. Thank you.